Welcome back to Tech Me Out, the podcast where we break down complex tech into simpler terms and connect it right back to where it belongs, humanity. Today's episode is cheekily titled The C Word. Why? Well, for two reasons. First, because I think it's kind of funny. Let's be real. When most people hear the phrase, the C word, their brain immediately jumps to that word. The one that's universally understood as harsh, offensive, something you don't just drop into polite conversation, if you get my drift. It makes people flinch. And second, because there's another C word. Yep, one that's become just as loaded, just as uncomfortable, and arguably just as disruptive in today's digital world. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about consent. Yes, consent, a word that should feel clear and simple, but in the context of technology, especially within artificial intelligence, has started to get blurry, complicated, and in some cases, dangerously ignored. And if you think that word only applies to human relationships or legal documents or data privacy policies that you don't read because you don't work for that tech company or you're not on that business team, think again. Because consent, I can guarantee you, is now sitting right at the center of how you interact, how we all interact with some of the most used and most powerful technologies on the planet. I'll use the most visible one as my example today. Recently, OpenAI released a newest version. When you log in, something new pops up. You have likely seen in the newest version of ChatGPT a terms of use disclaimer. Right there, it says, by using this product, you agree to our terms. Now, maybe you click past it like we all do sometimes. Maybe you paused and you thought like, what is this? Maybe not. But let me ask you something. Have you actually read a terms of use disclaimer for the generative AI tools that you're using? That little sentence, that one click through moment is all about consent. So before we dive into those terms of use and terms of use disclaimers generally, let's unpack what ChatGPT actually is, a large language model. And then we'll discuss how consent is involved in all this. So what is ChatGPT really? ChatGPT is a type of large language model, or LLM, which is an AI system trained on large amounts of data from books, articles, websites, conversations, and more. Its job is to predict language. So when you ask it a question or type a prompt, it's not searching the internet for answers. It's generating a response based on patterns that it learned from the data that it was trained on. So here's the key. Your inputs, the things that you type in, can also be used as part of that large language model's training. That means, for example, what you say to ChatGPT doesn't just stay in your conversation. It could become part of how the model learns to respond to someone else in the future. And that brings us right back to consent. So why should you actually read the terms of use? Well, if you're using any large language model, not just ChatGPT, it's in your best interest to read the terms of use. I know no one wants to read legal fine print. I am a lawyer and I don't sometimes myself. But when the tech you're using is learning from you, responding to you, and potentially storing your inputs, those terms of use matter a lot. So let's break it down. Here are 3 key things you'll often find in the terms of use for tools like this, including ChatGPT. So number 1, your inputs may be used for training. By default, many LLMs log and store what you type into them, and they may use that information to improve future versions of the model. So that means your questions, your stories, even your draft emails could become part of the model's ongoing education. Now, some platforms let you opt out, but you have to dig for that setting. It's not always obvious. Your inputs may be used for training. Second, you are responsible for what you share. Terms of use typically remind users not to input sensitive information, confidential information, or personal information. But here's the tricky part. That warning often comes after the fact, and that platform doesn't always stop you from sharing that information in the moment. So if you drop a contract clause or a client name into a prompt, that data is technically your responsibility to neutralize or sterilize that information before you put it in, even if the platform is storing it. So you are responsible for what you put into those prompts. Number 3, there are limits to ownership. Here's the part most people miss. When you generate content with an LLM, you usually own what you create, but the platform doesn't owe you anything for helping to train it. Even if your data contributes to improving that model, you don't get a say in how it's used, monetized. There's no co-creator credit, no royalties, no feedback loop. You give, they take, or others might say they give you a solution, a response, which is a strong point and worth making here. But regardless, the exchange ends there. So what does consent look like in the age of AI? Consent, at its core, is about informed choice. It's about knowing what you're agreeing to and having the freedom to say no. But in the world of large language models, the idea of consent is way more complicated than it looks. Generally, when you ask a question or type a prompt into a platform, that data can be stored, analyzed, and in some cases used to improve the model. That means your words, your questions, your ideas could be helping to train this AI further. So here's the question. What are you giving away when you use it? What do you get in return? And why have the terms of use popped up now? Why do the terms of use matter now? I'm not here to make assumptions. I'm here to raise questions, and timing is everything. Timing matters. This terms of use prompt didn't always pop up. It's showing up now. LLMs now are more valuable than ever. And now public trust in artificial intelligence is shifting fast. And I would argue pretty confidently that it's not super favorable right now. Maybe, just maybe, is showing up this terms of use because companies are starting to recognize that information that we give these models isn't just data. It's fuel. It's feedback. It's raw material for a product that needs it. And it's still learning and it's growing from us. Could that make our input priceless? So let's think critically about what's at stake here. 4 questions. If I give my consent, what do I get in return? If I do not, can I still participate? Am I giving away creative ownership, privacy, power? And most of all, is my consent truly informed or is it assumed? Because clicking I agree or using it, if this is the only way to access something that we know is so incredibly impactful to society, is there really any choice? Can I just walk away? So this is where the Sociotech Connect comes in. The Sociotech Connect is where we ask the question, how can we reconnect humanness back to the technological advancement shaping daily life? And more specifically, what does it mean to truly give or withhold consent in a world, this world, where opting out could be a huge detriment to societal progress? Here's my take. Consent. Real informed consent isn't just a legal checkbox. It is a human right. The right to understand, the right to choose, and the right to say no without losing access to the tools that are increasingly defining modern life. We all know that not everyone is going to decline giving platforms like ChatGPT access to their data. Some people are okay with trading that for convenience, or they simply don't see the harm. That's fine. That's their choice. But what about the people who don't want their input becoming part of a model? Those people should still be able to use the platform, especially when we're talking about tools that are shaping every aspect of our lives: healthcare, work, education, dating, communication, beauty, entertainment, criminal justice, and even how public services are delivered. The list, the impact seems endless. If a platform is claiming to be open source or open access or part of the future of human knowledge, it should make space for people who want to opt out of data training and still engage. And here's the catch. Tech companies might be banking on the fact that by flooding users with overwhelming fine print terms and constant data requests, people will just give up and hand over their data with no real choice or recourse. Over time, this erodes the value of data protection and shields companies from future legal liability because the consent was technically given, even if it wasn't truly informed. True consent means saying yes or no freely, under no pressure. It means the choice isn't rigged, and the cost of protecting your data shouldn't be exclusion. As we move forward with artificial intelligence, we need to build systems that make room for that kind of humanity. Because tech without choice isn't progress, it is control, veiled in convenience. I'll say it again, consent is a human right. I would really love to hear your thoughts on this. I really would. Let's talk online. So, coming up in the second half of the episode, I talk with an entrepreneur who's navigating the blurred lines between visibility, her visibility, and privacy in the age of constant exposure. We'll dig into how she's building her business online or not, while being very intentional about what she shares and what she keeps private. Stay tuned. Today we have Melfi. Thank you very much, Melfi, for joining Tech Me Out.
Oh, thank you for having me, Candy.
So,
It's a pleasure.
first question.
Okay.
Let's just start with personal. How does technology show up in your personal life, your day to day life?
Oh gosh, it shows up in so many different ways. Just from a basic thing of waking up in the morning to an alarm, on my phone, or having Alexa in the house and being mindful of, how far you go with it, how much you use it, and, that kind of thing. Um, I would also say, as much as I can, I really haven't gotten into it to make my house like a really smart house, but I do use some features of it for lighting, for voice, with television, that kind of thing. Um, I don't have solar panels. I would love to have solar panels in a number of things, not just for the technology before the sustainability, which is also something I do really like, but hoping to do more of. But so in personal life, I would say those basic things. And just the waking up of the day, getting to work, using technology a lot of time for transportation and getting to your route through your maps, and if there's traffic, that kind of thing. Talking on the phone hands free, which is critical, and important to safety, getting to work. Um, and then, of course, getting on that computer all day long at work is something that I do on a day to day basis and heavily rely on. I think I could be much better at it, especially with AI and really as an organization that I work for, AIST, Austin ISD, really using it to our advantage more and leaning into it more. So that's what I'm really in small doses trying to do and learning to do. But yeah,
Awesome.
so
So,
that's a snippet of it. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. I mean, that's not dissimilar from anyone else, really. We're just kind of, besides the fact that we have smartphones, the phones pretty much can allow us to do whatever we want to do. Like you say, from our alarms to getting to work,
Yeah.
GPS and things like that. The roads, at least where I live, they're constantly building and there's a new road every day. I remember when I first moved to where I am, our street was brand new, but it wasn't on GPS. And that was like difficult to get packages, to find our
Right.
way back around. And so, yeah,
Right.
technology shows up in like these things where you think they become so commonplace, but when they're removed, it definitely shows you how valuable it is.
It does. And I just want to say this too. Sometimes it's the technology is great with GPS, but it also I love it when you're like when I'm driving, I like, I appreciate that recommendation, but I want to go this route. And I know I want to go this route. So sometimes I do deviate. I appreciate it, but I deviate from it as well. So
Yeah,
but
and
yeah.
that I think that's like the best way to approach technologies, especially the evolving ones like GPS, I mean, like GPS and like Gen AI. It's constantly evolving. It relies on large data sets that you might not agree with. And so just having that
Yes,
human in the loop in your day-to-day life makes it easier to practice that at work, at least for me. I'm
absolutely.
yeah, I'm using AI a lot, Gen AI all the time, and so it's important when my mind gets tired or I'm not as efficient and I can use the tool that I still kind of pull back and make that choice like, okay, I have to check this on my own without just wholly relying on artificial intelligence. So yeah, um, that's really really important. So let's shift into your um, entrepreneurship. I know that you have your own business, and have you integrated artificial intelligence, generative AI, say in marketing or anything like that, or just uh, any process?
I really, really want to, and I know that it's in existence, and I really need to do it. It's just I have not had the time. That is definitely something I want to do, as far as especially um, all of the videos that sometimes can be a bit tedious. I really need to learn how to do that, and I know that. There's a lot of AI software and things like that that can help me do it. I just tell you, listen, I am behind the curve with that, but I need to. It's the truth. Now, yes, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok and Facebook and all of that. Could I be a lot savvier? Absolutely. So I think this is the moment to make that big shift and
Mm.
not get left behind, because I'm seeing it more and more um, when people do their posts and things and they're incorporating it, and I'm like, it's awesome, but I need to get there. So I must admit I am behind and I need to get on board with that. Yeah.
You know what's so funny is that when I look online because of the podcast, I'm a lot more into socials, and all of my socials are for the podcast, and for communicating about this topic and this concept. So, yeah, when I delved into trying to integrate these technologies, it was very overwhelming for me.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
just couldn't believe how faster and how savvy it was,
Yeah.
just every single post. But
Yes.
do you think, as far as being left behind, I think that the technology is moving so fast that
Yeah.
I don't think you could ever get left behind. Like it's a marathon. Like I think that the
Yeah.
technology would just keep getting better and better and better. And I mean, maybe it's because it's going so fast, it's making the features unimportant. Like we're kind of being forced to go back to, do I want this
Yeah.
product? Everybody has
Right.
the fancy features. So it's like, okay, how is it truly helping me make the best selection for me?
Right, right, and for sure, and yeah, you're absolutely right. We're not going to get left behind because it's definitely being infused into everything we do. So then you get the thing of when I post now, I see there's a link and it's like, do you want to add the AI feature and the this and the that? And I'm like, the what? What do I do? And what does that look like? And so I just have to really get to it. I really do. And I want to. It's just a matter of just that one more thing that you have to learn and understand it, especially when it comes to things of security and access to my information too. So
Mhm.
I just want to be smart about it and not just say, "Oh, I'm going to do it just because it's the thing to do."
Yeah.
So I need to educate myself is really where I am, and so that I can make a good educated assessed decision about, oh yeah, I'm doing this because it makes sense for me. It's going to get more viewers. It's going to make things much more easier where I don't have to post 3 or 4 times a week, it's already going to do it for me. That kind of thing, that I know all these things exist. I just need to take the time to slow down to learn it and get to it. Yeah.
Yeah, that think that's an amazing point because I think there is definitely a stigma around generative AI. There's this fear about the technology, that it's too fast, that it's thinking on its own, and all of these kind of unfounded beliefs about the technology. Your hesitation also includes something that I haven't heard yet, which is like your need to protect your individual privacy. And I
Right.
don't know if other people are thinking about that because on the other end of the stigma is this huge value that we see on the socials. Like they're more exciting, their posts are more exciting and things like that. So it makes me wonder like how many entrepreneurs, how many people who are posting are thinking about their personal data when they begin to expand how they use AI.
Right. I mean, I do, because I think it's inevitable, clearly, that Big Brother has all these ways of getting data from us through our phones, through listening in, through technologies, through our cars. I mean, all of these things, to the point, if you say one word, if you don't have it, featured properly on your phone or your laptop, you say pizza, you get everything about pizza. You say beach, they'll send you everything about, all of these things, because they're listening into every step you make about how can we align with this person to get them to buy into whatever. And that's not me being paranoid about it. It's just the reality of it too.
Yeah, you made a really good point, Melfi. What I wanted to bring up is the fact that I think at some point in time, a lot of us, a lot of individuals gave consent in some capacity to these large technology companies for our data.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that because over the last 5 6 years there's been so much conversation around personal data, is that we're all more aware of that fact. And so it's just it becomes a point of, do we are we allowed like a reboot where they need to tell us like, oh, we have your data, we've had your data for all this time, or we
Right.
consent, do you still want to give it to us? And so I think that's something that's like a hole in the legal discourse about this, because the companies are very powerful and it's just not on the radar of our legislators the way that society, I think, is beginning to want it to be. And so I think it's a very valuable point that you brought up, the fact that you want to protect your data. You're not just running into using these services and jumping on socials in this and that way, because you want to make sure that there's the correct practices in place.
Because data is power, data is ownership too. And, you observe it in so many different capacities of, people reach out for, by text and say, hey, subscribe to this, do this, or email you and want your information. I went to Essence Festival, and I was really fascinated because I hadn't been in years. And everything that they were giving away, you know what they required? They required you to give your information,
Mm,
and they wanted your name, your phone number, your everything. And I began to think to myself, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this anymore, because
mm,
they are getting far more than I'm getting
mm,
for a little sample. I don't need a sample. Sure, there were some that were, purposeful, like a heart. They did a heart test for the women there. Wonderful. You're going to give me something. I'm going to receive something, a test, a medical test that is invaluable. That data in research for Black women, absolutely. But in other capacities, you have to stop and ask yourself, how much of that are you going to just give away, and then that can transfer it and transfer it and transfer it on. So it just makes me think of all of that, because it's where we are, it's what we are living in too.
Yeah, and one thing that you said that kind of rung my bell is in different jurisdictions, there are rules surrounding what type of disclosures these companies should be making. But I think the way that they're being presented, it almost seems like they're getting the consent by you giving the data already.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, but there's that trigger moment of when they sell it, for example. There's that
Mm-hmm.
and when they actually sell it, when they actually take that data and repurpose it beyond what you thought it was going to be used for. There are
Yes.
yeah, there are huge loopholes in various jurisdictions in that moment. And I think that, like, 10 years ago, the most hiccup or irritating factor of going to an event like that and getting samples and giving your information was that they would send you like catalogs, or they would maybe send you emails asking, all
Right.
of a sudden you're on
Yeah.
their email list. It's so much more now. Like you said, data is powerful. Data is
Yeah.
very powerful now.
Yeah. And I'll say it to this point too. So I know that, back in the day, the way you get to people really was through the mail.
Mhm.
You mail a flyer, you leave something at the door. That was the path. But now people are so transit that, there's a lot of people that are nomads. People work from everywhere. They might not even have a address. They might have a PO box. So that
Mm.
path is minimal, minimal. They know they don't, other than local businesses, that really send you the plumber, all that kind of stuff, sure. But they have, for the most part, abandoned that ship, because there's so many other platforms and ways to get that data.
Yeah, it's a lot easier. You can get so much more, and you can sell it to provide it to almost all of your third-party partners, people that you have
Mm-hmm.
referral agreements with. You can get that to them, and it's just another piece of your pie. Yeah. Well, perfect. Well, thank you very much for speaking with me. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for being on this episode of Tech Me Out.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Tech Me Out is hosted by Keande Stinson, a technologist and attorney with a passion for exploring how technology shapes our lives. Keande brings a thoughtful, curious, and critical perspective to every episode, helping you understand the impact of tech beyond the screen. For more episodes and insights, visit techmeoutpodcast.substack.com. techmeoutpodcast.substack.com. techmeoutpodcast.substack. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.